Hi everyone, and welcome to today's event. We're really excited today to have with us Walter Hajek from the Austrian Red Cross. As announced, we're doing this in line with our support work for the humanitarian crisis currently unfolding in Ukraine. We had one event yesterday with Doctors Without Borders, who already explained to us how they implement your donations and your contributions to this initiative. And today, Walter from the Red Cross will do the same. We also have with us Solomiya Omeliyan, the president of the VIC Ukrainian Club, who will say a few words of thank you. And without further ado, let me pass on the floor to her. Solomiya, all floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dear Steven, dear Walter, dear colleagues listening to us today, it is indeed my great pleasure to welcome you to this webinar. Today I'm speaking in my capacity as the president of the Vienna International Center, or VIC Ukrainian Club, established in 2017. First of all, I would like to thank you, Steven, for remarkable support and dedication you have been demonstrating with your team from the very beginning, with the launching and then leading the campaign Humanitarian Relief for Ukraine. Thank you also for gathering us today to review the results of work on the ground of our partners like the Red Cross Austria. You know, this all gives us a good feeling of accomplishment, that our effort was channeled in the best possible way. From the very outset of this horrifying war in Ukraine, the international community, including civil society and numerous volunteers, whom we have seen here in Austria as well, have been engaged in delivering humanitarian support to the people in Ukraine, but also in the host countries that provided shelter to those fleeing the war, like it is also done in Austria. We are therefore truly grateful that in response to our call for support, the UNIDO Staff Council immediately responded and launched this initiative, Humanitarian Relief for Ukraine. It allowed us to collect funds and support those in need. And the effort still continues as we speak. You know, our club's goal is absolutely not in the area of, and mandate is not in the area of humanitarian assistance. We were established to promote the Ukrainian culture that is so natural during the peaceful times and raise awareness of international audiences about the history, national heritage, language, literature, cuisine, traditions in Ukraine that we are so proud of. For example, we just organized in 2018 a Ukrainian week for the international community in the Vienna International Center, and it was such a great feeling. Now the priorities are clearly different, and the key task of every club's member is to provide as much as possible support to the people affected by the war, and that includes, of course, humanitarian relief. I must admit that me personally, and I'm sure every other Ukrainian, during these difficult times has experienced impressive manifests of human kindness. And this initiative is one of them. It helps us a lot to heal this inner devastation that we have and to reduce pain that accompanies us. So in conclusion, I just would like to take this opportunity to thank every one of you, every individual who has generously donated funds or provided a shelter or provided psychological support, financial relief to the people fleeing the war. And I personally know such people, and they are It's a lot of them here in Austria, for example, where we live. Every act of support matters to us. Solidarity is extremely vital. We learned it. This will never be forgotten. So thank you once again for your great efforts. And back to you, Steven. We are looking forward to hear more from Walter today.
Thank you, Solomiya, for your powerful statement. Very, very powerful words indeed. And with that, Walter, we're looking forward to your presentation. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Solomiya, for your very kind words, and Steven also for the invitation to be here today with you. And first and foremost, also thank you to everybody online and everybody not online for the contribution and the support that you're giving to the work of the Red Cross in the Ukraine. That's really very much appreciated and also very much needed. Because the needs are huge, and every support that we can get is very, very important and appreciated. What I will do now is I will share my screen with you. I'll hold a short presentation on what the Red Cross and the Austrian Red Cross in particular is doing and working in the Ukraine and also the neighboring countries. I'll do this right now, and then I'll give you a bit more details. I hope you can see the presentation now.
Yes, we can.
So what I wanted to say at the very beginning is that Ukraine has been a long-standing partner country for the Austrian Red Cross. We have long-term working relationship with the Ukraine Red Cross Society, and we intensified our cooperation in 2014 with a humanitarian program in the east along the contact line in the Donbas. We were focusing on health and social services in the Donbas region. We ran mobile health clinics, mobile health units that provided health support to the people in need along the contact line. We ran cash and voucher assistance to people in need for, on the one hand, rehabilitate, reconstruct their houses, to winterize and make winter safe their houses, but also to start and scale up small scale businesses for people in need in the Donbas region. We also supported very much a social program where we had visiting nurses that were going and visiting elderly, particularly elderly people that were at home that needed support in their houses because they were not mobile anymore. So we ran a social service with nurses that were going to visit elderly people. We were working also on headquarters level with the Ukraine Red Cross Society. We supported very much the capacity building, in particular in disaster preparedness. So that program that has been going on for many years, and we see now the results because we see that the Ukrainian Red Cross is doing a great job in the Ukraine, despite of the fact that the needs are huge. We really see that the Ukrainian Red Cross is responding very well. And our third part of the cooperation with the Ukrainian Red Cross before the escalation was in the west of the Ukraine, in Chernovtsi, where we supported also elderly homes, where we supported the Red Cross branch of Chernovtsi in the rehabilitation, in the reformation, and the quality assurance in the elderly homes that the branch was and is still running. So since the escalation of the conflict, everything changed. Obviously, we have been scaling up our programs significantly. We built on the working relationship that we had with Ukraine Red Cross Society, and we scaled it up. What did we do? We started primarily with the distribution, with the transport, the purchase and transport, and the distribution of much needed relief items. including food, but also non-food items like hygiene parcels for families, first aid kits, shelter material. So that's something that has been starting from the very beginning of the crisis. We also supported Red Cross, Ukrainian Red Cross, in providing safe drinking water, and in particular improving the sanitary situation in temporary shelters in Lviv and in Uzhhorod, where we sent our technical experts and also financially are supporting the increase of the standards in temporary shelters, in particular when it comes to sanitary facilities. We also support the Ukrainian Red Cross Society very much in building up a large-scale cash and voucher support program, which in our opinion, and probably in the opinion of almost all humanitarian organizations, is the most efficient way of helping people in need. We have been deploying our experts from Austria both to the Ukrainian Red Cross Society, but also to our international Red Cross partners, the ICRC, that is primarily working in the directly affected by the conflict affected areas, but also the International Federation of the Red Cross Society, which is playing a very strong coordination role in the response of the Red Cross movement. So together with our partners, together with the Ukrainian Red Cross Society, the International Committee of the Red Cross and the Federation, the Red Cross support reaches an amount of currently 700 million Swiss francs in the Ukraine, but also in the neighboring countries. And that is one plan which is implemented by different components of the Red Cross movement, and one part is implemented by the Austrian Red Cross. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of what the Red Cross movement is helping and doing and working in the Ukraine, but also in the neighboring countries, where obviously a lot of people are leaving the Ukraine, also to Austria. We have set up almost 900 humanitarian service points where refugees can go and they receive all different types of support, starting with information, with restoring family links or keeping the communication up with their loved ones which had to stay behind in the Ukraine, but also health services, first aid, psychosocial support, which is an extremely important component of our work. We see that people are obviously in extremely difficult and stressful situations, and this takes a toll also on the psychological side, and especially, but also young children, but also the elderly, which we see a lot of elderly people coming also with young children and mothers. The stress they are going through is immense, and I've been talking to my teams just before we have this meeting now, and they said it's also in the West, but everywhere, but in the country, it's the stress under which people are living for a long period of time now is huge. So I cannot overestimate the importance of psychosocial and psychological support that we are providing. Overall, roughly 1 in 10 people that are negatively impacted by the conflict have received support by the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement in different types and forms. So now that's the big picture of what is the Red Cross doing. Let me just complement with one component I forgot to mention now. Also, people are moving to Austria, and we have seen up to now roughly almost 300,000 people from the Ukraine coming to Austria. Most of them don't stay in Austria, so it's more than 80% of refugees from the Ukraine that are not staying in Austria, that are passing through Austria and then going to other countries, Spain, Germany, France. But we have currently around 50,000 people, at least to official figures, staying in Austria and seeking refuge in Austria. The Austrian Red Cross is supporting the provincial governments and the national government in sheltering refugees from the Ukraine. We run our own shelters in some of the provinces, and we support the governmental shelters with health services, with the distribution of relief items, with sanitary facilities in the other provinces. So as you can see, the Red Cross is working in the Ukraine. We are working in the neighboring countries. We're working along the borders with humanitarian service points. We're working along the migration trails, and we're working also in the recipient countries, such as Austria, but also like in all the other countries that there are in Europe that are receiving people from the Ukraine. What is the Austrian Red Cross doing in the Ukraine? This is a brief overview of what we have been doing. And this is the status quo of where we are now. And we are currently and constantly fine-tuning and also scaling the work that you're seeing here. We are distributing urgently needed relief items, including food parcels in Uzhhorod, in Zakarpattia, in Lviv, but also in other places in the Ukraine. We support conflict-affected people with cash and voucher assistance, meaning in the places, and that's almost everywhere in the Ukraine, the place where the markets and the shops are still working, we are supporting with cash and vouchers. Very important first aid, obviously, health support, psychological first aid, PGI, meaning protection, gender and inclusion, protection to protect people that are fleeing is an extremely important part, helping to evacuate, but also protecting vulnerable people, for example, from human trafficking is another very important work, giving information what can be done if something has been observed. So that's the second very strong pillar of our work. Shelter assistance, especially in Lviv, and here in particular the upgrading of the sanitary facilities in the temporary shelters, in the schools, in the sports compounds, in the sports halls where people are temporarily sheltered. Obviously, these shelters were not made to host so many people, so we are working very strong and very hard on the upgrade of the water and in particular the sanitary facilities there. And again, health services, mobile health units. That's an extremely important part of our work too. Now in Irpin and around Irpin and also in other places around Kiev, we are starting to work with mobile health units that are going from one place to the other to provide health services, very urgently needed health services. So that's what we're doing at the moment. We are constantly grading up and scaling up our work. And this is also why your support is so much needed. And again, I really would like to say a big thank you for the support that you're giving also to the work of the Red Cross, because we see how huge the needs are, and humanitarian aid can always only be like part of the solution. But we're trying our best. We're working hard. Our teams are on the ground. They have access to people in need, and with your support, we are able to scale even more the support that we are giving. I'm almost coming to the end of my short presentation. I wanted to emphasize and underline one point, and it's shown a little bit here at this slide. Humanitarian aid obviously consists of many different components. It's not only relief items and relief goods, distribution of relief goods. It's so important to do also other work, like psychological first aid, for example. The protection work is extremely important. The upgrading of sanitary facilities. So everything is everything that you're seeing here is part and parcel of an overall program that consists of many different components. So the support that we can receive is by far the best support that we can receive is support through cash donations, because we need the flexibility also to develop our programs and to see how the needs on the ground are developing and also shifting, not only geographically, but also like in terms of content. What people need now is certainly different from what people will need in 1 month or even 6 months down the line. And to give us that flexibility, it is so important to give us the support that gives us the flexibility. And this is certainly the case with cash donations. And I'm totally convinced that this is, if you have the possibility to support a humanitarian organization, if you have the possibility to support with cash, I can't underline more that this is by far the best way of supporting humanitarian organizations, such as Doctors Without Borders, such as the Caritas, because we talked about it, but also such as, of course, the Red Cross. Because the needs are changing, and cash donations give us the opportunity to change our support that we are giving. But also when it comes to relief items, and when it comes to distribution of relief items in the Ukraine, in our opinion, cash support to us is also the most efficient way, because what are we doing with the cash support we are getting? How does this whole relief support work? With the cash support that we are receiving, we have at the Austrian Red Cross, we have a logistics and humanitarian procurement center. It's situated in the 23rd district in the south of Vienna. It's a big logistical center, and that's also the place where our procurement experts are sitting. And with the cash support the Austrian Red Cross is receiving, we give out tenders for certain standardized relief items. In our case, it was a lot relief items in the shape of hygiene parcels, food, first aid kits, and these tenders, they are going out to suppliers, and the suppliers are then selected. The ones who supply with the best value obviously is being selected, also taking into consideration the speed and the timing, and then the supplier is delivering these directly into the Red Cross supply lines into the Ukraine. And we have currently 4 supply lines. We are entering, or we are transporting relief items via Lubin and Lviv first. The second is going into Uzhhorod. The third into Chernovtsi, and the 4th supply line for relief items is going into Odessa. And these suppliers, they are sending directly into these supply lines. We have warehouses on both sides of the border, and then inside of the Ukraine, obviously, not only on the border, but then also throughout the country, where we transport and then distribute relief items. So with your support, what we will do is we scale up the relief support, which is then directly implemented by our logistics experts. They are purchasing the relief items, which are then channeled into the Red Cross movement distribution channels. And one last point is cash and voucher assistance. I touched upon it a little bit before. In my opinion, and I'm not alone with that, cash and voucher assistance is the most efficient way of supporting people in need, also in the Ukraine, because markets and shops are still open in large parts of the country, and many items that people are needing can still be purchased in shops, in particular in Western Ukraine, where we also work. And why is cash and voucher assistance so efficient? It's efficient because if it's prepared well, and we did prepare cash and voucher assistance with the Ukrainian Red Cross Society before the escalation of the conflict, then with a push of one button, basically, you can distribute support to people in need without the need of further logistics, without the ecological footprint, which is huge, obviously, when a lot of trucks are going through half of Europe. And also one important point of cash and voucher assistance is that you support the local community. If the relief items are bought directly in Lviv or in Uzhhorod or wherever people need the support, then it also has a secondary positive impact on the local economy. And that's extremely important, because on the other hand, relief items can also have a negative impact on the local economy. If a lot of relief items are being brought into Ukraine, the local shops will face also a difficult time. So this is why it's so important and so positive that cash and voucher assistance is currently being scaled up. And to do so, we also need cash support from you. And with that, I would like to close. Thank you very much for being with me. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Walter. Very insightful indeed. So like we said, you have the opportunity now to engage with either Solomiya or Walter. If you have any questions, the chat is open. You can use the Q&A. I see I have a raised hand already. No, was that in error? Okay. But Solomiya, why not? Why don't you start off?
Yeah, let me raise the hand. I have many questions, and thank you first of all, Walter, for the presentation. It was extremely interesting to know it in more detail and to learn what your organization is doing. It is definitely vital support that Red Cross is providing, Red Cross Society here in Austria and in Ukraine. And it was interesting to also know very concrete way in which the assistance has been channeled and our donations, how they are spent. Actually, I believe this is good for colleagues who are listening to be aware of. And I think that it is extremely practical solutions that you have mentioned about this cash and vouchers support and also relief items support. And my question is about exactly relief items. You have elaborated already more on that, that you are trying to focus more on cash and vouchers support, while relief items means also environmental footprint, but also market distortions in Ukraine, because if you flood it with items from abroad, and it will be very it might have a negative impact on the market. So I just wanted to ask whether in the 23rd district, just let us make a concrete example, whether your colleagues who are launching those tenders, whether they are also focusing on the Ukrainian market or not, or when it comes to the relief items, or it is only about the EU market or Austria market, and the items have to be transported, as you said, through the borders, which might definitely take more time, because we know that some companies, of course, in Ukraine had to be on hold or stopped their production. But we also know that many companies have moved to Western and Central Ukraine, and they badly need this kind of support. And if such orders are coming to them, if they are on the list of the Red Cross and they can be invited to participate in tenders, it would be extremely helpful for them to relaunch their work. So that would be my first question, whether you are also targeting the Austrian market, the Ukrainian market. The second question which I had is how do you actually reach out to the people? If we take an example in Austria, right? I believe every colleagues who work with me, Ukrainians, they have provided either shelter or have received relatives from Ukraine. Me personally, I have 12 people who are now my friends or relatives are here. And definitely they are looking for different ways of support. But none of them, just to give my personal example, mentioned that they turned to Red Cross because they were not aware of that. They were in the Austria Center, for instance, or they were in Linz, in this registration centers at the Hauptbahnhof, but it was never an issue about the Red Cross. I have heard about Caritas more from them. So how are you reaching out? And maybe also to inform you that here in Vienna, we have a rather big Ukrainian community. that is let's say, built around the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. It is in the 1st district, Barbareum. But there are many other initiatives, but people are trying also to centralize and work around this church and youth community. It is called Tuma, Ukrainian Youth Community. They are very big as well. And they organize information workshops for refugees, for Vertriebene, as they are called, from Ukraine, here in Vienna, for instance, but also in other cities like Salzburg or Graz, where we have more, or Linz. And I know that with some organization like Integrationsfonds Österreich, they organized yesterday and tomorrow such an information workshop. So maybe to reach out to a broader audience, and as you're saying, people are coming, some are staying, so that they know what kind of support then they can get. It would be maybe useful, and I can provide also contacts if needed of these organizations that coordinate this kind of workshops. And last but not least, you mentioned about volunteers, that you work so much with volunteers, but also probably you need staff on board, I don't know, because of the fact that Ukrainians are now here and we are talking about thousands. And in that respect, you might need Red Cross, as well as other big organizations, might need people who speak Ukrainian, who have some experience in management as well, and who will be looking also for jobs here, right? So interesting whether Red Cross is planning to also open some job opportunities to those who are planning to stay in Austria or in other countries. I have seen already some probably announcements, but I'm not sure whether it was by Red Cross. So that would be also nice. And if it is planned, we are also ready to help circulate this kind of information to the people whom we know and through organizations which we know. So these 3 key questions which I had. Thank you.
Shall we take a few questions, or Steven, do you want me to?
Yeah, I think those.
Right away?
Yeah, those were three and a half questions already. So yeah, let's see if you answer those quickly, and then we can go to the next one.
Thank you very much, Solomiya, for these questions. Very, very valid questions, and I hope I can give good answers regarding the targeting of the logistic questions and the companies, Ukrainian companies. It's a very good question, in particular because it's in fact a mixture. What we're doing is, first, yes, of course, these tenders, they are open to any company. They're not limited. However, of course, in this period of, in this phase of the conflict, it has to be quick. That's first and foremost. We cannot like to have a tender for 4 weeks open and wait for quotations. It has to be within a few days. So what happens is that we are contacting suppliers that we have been working with, and then we get, normally we're getting within very short period of time, we get some quotations. However, it of course would be very interesting to have also the context of companies. If you have companies that are working, in the respective fields, of course it would be interesting to have these contacts, so we can then approach also these companies directly to say, look, if you have an offer, please, send it to us at this point in time, so we can include them proactively in the tender. So we're doing like these international tenders on the one hand. On the other hand, we are working now, for example, together with a wholesaler for food in Uzhhorod directly. So we are signing a contract as we speak with a wholesaler that is providing food for our relief item distributions to the branches of Uzhhorod Red Cross branch. So that's going on parallel. Parts of the relief items are coming still from outside of Ukraine. Food is coming from inside of Ukraine. Then we put it together into parcels and distribute it via our volunteer network in Uzhhorod and also in other branches. And what we also look at the moment, and I hope this will be signed very shortly, is you know Silpo most likely, the chain of Silpo. Or there's a standing cooperation with the Ukrainian Red Cross and Silpo to come up with a voucher program for people in need. So people in need get vouchers for Silpo and then can go directly to the Silpo chain shops and get their market. So we are trying to purchase and work as closely as possible, always depending on time and how much we know the country already. And that's the benefit of working on Ukraine, because we have been working there together with the Ukrainian Red Cross for quite some time. This is why we are able to come up with quite quick solutions. So that's the case. Second question, how do we reach out to people? And I think the question was related also both in Austria, but also in the Ukraine. So in Austria, it's a bit similar in both countries, because we always work as a humanitarian auxiliary to the government. No? The government is saying, look, Red Cross, we need your support when it comes to sheltering people, or when it comes to medical care for refugees. And that's also the case in Austria now. And it's different from province to province. You know that in Austria, everything is quite decentralized. So the provinces, it's the duty of the provinces to shelter and provide for refugees. So it looks different in the provinces. In Salzburg, for example, the Red Cross is running its own shelters. In Vienna, it is not. In Vienna, the shelters are not run by the Red Cross. They're run by a different, I think it's the Samariterbund that is running the shelters in Vienna. And we come in, I think we're doing relief distributions also in Vienna shelters. But our role is different in Vienna to other provinces. And always in accordance to what the government, the local government is asking us to do. And in the Ukraine, it is similar. How do we reach out? It is basically via the volunteers and the staff of the Ukrainian Red Cross Society. These are the ones that are doing the relief distributions. We are supporting them. When the branch of Uzhhorod or Lviv is saying, look, we need more support, we don't know how to organize a relief distribution for XYZ, we are coming in with our experts and we're supporting with staff the Ukrainian Red Cross. But the outreach is done through staff and volunteers of the Ukrainian Red Cross Society. I hope this answers a little bit your second question that you had. And the third question was regarding volunteers and staff. Yes, we means the international part of our work in the Ukraine, but also in the neighboring countries, but also within Austria, the Red Cross is looking for staff and volunteers. These job vacancies, they are announced on the webpage, and I would be very happy to share this link with you to distribute that amongst your networks. Because obviously with a profile or with a knowledge on the situation in Ukraine, this comes, and the language skills, obviously this is a huge added value, and it's a great offer to have people from the Ukraine interested to support the work of the Red Cross also in Austria. Let me share this link with you, and if you can distribute that amongst your networks, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Walter. That would be perfect, because we definitely are happy to provide those who are here, the Vertriebene from Ukraine, with some job opportunities or voluntary work opportunity. People need to be engaged, they want to be active, and this is a great chance, as I understand. And if I just may ask one small additional question, you mentioned about psychological support that is so important as well. And you were saying that the situation is changing with time. Needs of those who are coming might also change. And I know already some also women who come to Vienna, and we are talking about women who experienced violence, or children or elderly who were raped, and all these things. And here we need to provide definitely a certain level of psychological support in the long run as well, because these people would need mental care support probably in some instances. Is Red Cross planning to do something concrete in Austria in that regard? concretely in Vienna, for instance, that we can be aware of and then inform people about that?
Thank you again for this very important question. And allow me to come back, because you asked particularly about Vienna. To my knowledge, the Austrian Red Cross is not yet providing these services in Vienna. However, I might be mistaken and it might be planned. Allow me to also come back to that question to you, to see if the Red Cross is working in that field, and if not, which other organizations are working in that field. What I can totally confirm is that the needs are huge, and and I'm 100% sure that there is support being provided either by the Red Cross or another organization or the City Council of Vienna. Allow me to come back to you with that, with the contacts and the details you need to know to again distribute them amongst your network. I will come back to you with this information.
Great, many thanks.
Thank you for that. We have one question from the floor. Florian, I think you were next. I'll give you have microphone options.
Thank you, Steven. Hi. Hello, Walter. Thank you for this nice briefing and very interesting insights. I just had two questions. One would be like, how do you deal with the security of your staff and volunteers on the ground? How do you manage them, or how do you, if you say, for example, these mobile clinics in or around Kiev, you know, where, okay, maybe now it's slightly more quiet, but still it's very, let's say, a hotspot of the war. And also, I would be interested how you operate in these circumstances. And then the second question would be also in how far you cooperate with the UN, especially the humanitarian arm of the UN, like WFP, UNICEF, and all those others. I mean, I remember from my time in Geneva when I was working for UNDP that you had these kind of cluster approaches, no, for water and sanitation and health, or for others. But is this still the way how you operate? And maybe also if you at times kind of piggyback on the logistics provided from the UN or the other way around. You know, I mean, WFP, I think, has a very strong logistics department, and within the UN takes the role on this, the lead on this. So maybe also the Red Cross is piggybacking on this, or the other way around. I mean, the Red Cross for sure also has very good supply channels and logistics. So yeah, these were a bit my two questions. Thank you so much.
Do you want to take them now?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Perfect.
Florian, thank you very much for these very, very interesting and valid questions. Security, a big concern indeed. And it is. I mean, as I said before, you know, the volunteers and the staff of the Ukrainian Red Cross, but also our own staff, you know, they're exposed themselves, and we're trying to put security first, certainly. However, this is always a balance between, okay, how can you reach people in need, and how much security do you need to provide for your people? So there's a constant balance. I think we are holding this balance. We're keeping this balance quite well. I mean, we are in constant dialogue with everybody involved in the conflict. You know, to respect, which is a difficult task, but to respect volunteers and the emblem and the volunteers and the workers of the Red Cross and other humanitarian organizations. Very difficult. We have very strict security regulations, certainly. We have security training. So we have a very tight network, I would say, on providing security guidelines and concrete measures with all of our volunteers and staff, which is, and that's certainly the case, always difficult in a situation like it is in the Ukraine at this moment. Yeah, but we're trying our best, yeah, I'm quite hopeful that we can provide the best possible security to our volunteers and staff also. Regarding the second question, the coordination with the UN, yes, it is like standardized UN or coordination cluster system work that we see now in the Ukraine. It is working quite well. The different sector clusters, there are most of them up and running. There's a WASH cluster group, the CVA cluster group, cash and voucher system, shelter cluster group. So most of them are up and running. The Red Cross is part of these coordination meetings. We have not only like on the coordinating level, but also direct cooperation with the UN and the Red Cross in Ukraine. It was with UNHCR that we signed the contract now to do cash and voucher distributions in the Ukraine. So we are implementing for the UN in the Ukraine, and this is also the case like this way and vice versa in terms of logistics. So there is this piggybacking that's happening. We are trying to coordinate well also in terms of logistics. And this, I mean, this has been difficult at the very beginning, like always in a situation like that. And from my perspective, this is improving every day. Logistic channels are scaling up, are working better and better every day. So yeah, that's happening, and it's improving and working better every day.
Steven, may you allow me a second, like small follow-up question? Yeah.
Exceptionally, yes.
Thank you. So just a question also on this security of staff and volunteers. I was wondering, you know, on the ground, in how far, I mean, this Red Cross, of course, is as the UN emblem, normally should be a certain level of protection or give protection. I was just wondering, you know, in how far until now that is or has been very much respected in those, I mean, in the war activities going on in Ukraine, or did you see that, I mean, that somehow, because unfortunately in some other scenarios, I mean, around the world, we also hear that there is a bit, let's say, a bit less and less respect here and there, I mean, for these logos and these emblems, and that unfortunately both Red Cross or Red Half Moon, Red Crescent or UN people are also become victims in one way or another, either as a side effect of those ongoing ongoing war or conflict activities, or sometimes even a direct target. But can you just comment on this and how far you see in Ukraine, or maybe even beyond, this has evolved on the Red Cross side over the last years?
I can comment on this one, and I mean, what we certainly see is that the respect for the emblem and for the Red Cross, Red Crescent, it is not improving over the last years. Looking at different contexts, looking at Syria, I think the death toll of volunteers in Syria stands at, I think it's around 30 people and volunteers that have been killed over the last years. Can't confirm if it was direct targeting, but partially I can also not exclude that. How the situation, I mean, we also have certainly, we are far from perfect here in the Ukraine. That's that much I can certainly say here. The emblem of the Red Cross is not as respected as it should be according to international humanitarian law. That's crystal clear. Whether it is worse, like in other contexts, such as Syria or not, I think this is a bit too early to say. Or at least I don't know. I cannot give you like a conclusion or I cannot give you more than a gut feeling at this point in time if the emblem is less or better respected compared to Yemen or Syria, for example. Okay. But we have challenges. I mean, that's something which is not a secret.
Many thanks.
Okay, we have one question from one of our panelists, Anya. If you want to raise your question.
Yes, thank you, and apologies for being late. But this is a question, I guess, in a follow-up sort of to Solomiya, and thank you, Walter, for being here today with us. My question relates to, again, vulnerable groups. Solomiya asked about the women who come here and would require psychological support. I'd like to ask whether or not there's also any discussion between the Austrian Red Cross and other relief organizations such as Samariterbund, and I know that there are a few, and the Austrian state on how to systematically assist refugees that, for instance, are oncological patients. and that get here and that are either kids or elderly and that require immediate assistance. And I'm asking this on the basis of a personal experience. The reason I was late actually was because I was taking an elderly couple this morning to the AKH who have an oncology case. And they're completely lost in the system. I mean, they arrived here on Thursday last week. They need chemo treatment and nobody is sort of guiding them. They were evaluated by the Samariterbund, I think it was, in the Sports and Fun Center in the 2nd district, and they were given a list of hospitals with addresses to revert to, and absolutely no guidance on how to do it, where to go, etc. So is there any thinking on how to potentially improve, or is there at all a way to sort of capture those people and not let them out into the open, but actually keep them within the structure and direct them into the medical system right away? Thank you.
Thank you, Anja. I mean, it's a very valid feedback, I would say. It's not even a question, because I cannot give an answer, and it's very hard to hear that these things are happening, and I'm 100% sure, unfortunately, that this is happening not only in that case but also in many other cases, because the systems are not yet ready and fit enough to not only provide information but also then take people, or give people the support that is needed to go through the systems. This is something I'm sure that is currently not provided by the system. It's overburdening the system. We don't, or the healthcare system is not able enough to do that. But what I can do is I can take this as a feedback, and I'll mention that at the relevant authorities. There's a coordination structure. So there's like an SKKM, it's called, is like the coordination structure at the Ministry of Interior, together with all included ministries and also the organizations, all of them that are having a part in the response and in the services that are provided. And I will mention and underline that it needs more than the information, and more needs to be done also in terms of guidance and taking people by the hand and lead them through the system, and taking people to the treatments that is needed. I think, or I guess.
I must say, we got to know about this couple through a private volunteer network, which I'm doing in my free time now on weekends and in the evenings. And because we sort of personally got in touch with them now, finally taking them to AKH this morning, at least they did not get any into the system yet, but we managed to book an appointment for them through the OncoVien, the system of oncology coordination, I guess, within Vienna. And they will have now an appointment. First, they gave one on Monday, and now they called me back and said that it would be available on Friday, which is great. In that sense, there is an urgency that is seen by the system when you call them. But again, the whole communication was done privately by me in German, and absolutely no guidance from the people who actually did evaluate them in the Fun and Sports Center, and release them with just a sheet of paper with just numbers and addresses of AKH, SMZ Süd and Nord, and that was it. And these are, 70-something-year-old couple.
Totally insufficient.
Completely lost now in the midst of Vienna. And and then I hear more and more requests from Ukraine, from mayorships of Ternopil and Lviv, which are now becoming humanitarian hubs in Ukraine, that they want assistance of volunteers in Vienna and other places to transport groups of people with disability, for instance.
Now that's something, Anja, I've got a bit of a more concrete answer.
Okay.
We have been doing this quite a bit because that the Red Cross runs the ambulance service in big parts of Austria. So, and that has been done also like with severe health cases, which needed special attendance, a doctor basically together with the ambulance. So that's been done. has been done and is also been done in the future in many cases. So we are picking up people that need special transport from the border in Lviv or in Ushko or wherever it is, and transport them to the relevant health facilities in Austria. So that's something I know, and that's being done. And if you need more of that, and if you're in contact with the hubs or the mayor or whoever it is in Ukraine, that's a service the Austrian Red Cross is providing.
Yes, the mayor of Ternopil is assembling a list of a group of people with disabilities. So maybe it may be good to connect him with you directly. I don't know, you or somebody on the ground, because they want to. These are people that had been transported from the east part of the country and from the south, and they need to be evacuated because they are flooded with people and they don't have facilities.
There's two challenges in it. First, my suggestion is to get in contact with the Austrian authorities. I mean, that's their counterpart anyhow. The mayor of Ternopil is getting in contact to the Ministry of Interior through diplomatic means. That's the way I think it would be facilitating everything, because once that is done, the Austrian health system can and hopefully will decide to accommodate these people within the Austrian health system in the hospitals where the treatment can be done, and then they would approach the Austrian Red Cross and say, "Look, Austrian, would you mind to go and get these people and bring them to these health facilities?" And which we will do then. So the contact for the mayor of Ternopil would be the Austrian government or the Ministry of Interior, but there are established means of communication between the authorities and governments. And then again, this is trickling down to the transport service, and then the Red Cross will be there to bring them. But first, you need to make sure that the people get a place in the hospitals in Austria, and that is something we cannot decide as the Austrian Red Cross, because we don't run the hospitals. It needs to be decided by the government. I think that's the first thing, and then again, the transport is something which will be done.
Okay, thank you.
And then allow me to come back, allow me to give a bit of time to investigate on this oncological situation and what else is there which is offered to patients from the Ukraine. It's nothing I know from the top of my head, but if you don't mind to share your contacts, and give me a few days, I will try to find out more.
Yes, at least so that people are not just released onto the street. And they were placed into a hotel and everything by BBU, but and then they're just left alone. They have no language, no skills, no understanding of how the system runs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. With that, we are at the end of our time. I also see no more questions through the chat or any raised hands. So thanks very much. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Don't forget, our possibilities for donating continue to be open throughout all of April. Feel free to share all the information that we share out with family, friends, as wide as possible. And if there is anything, please don't hesitate to get back to us or inform us if you have any more news. Thanks a lot. Have a nice afternoon and see you all soon.
Thank you.